Hey friends, welcome back to the Heart of Home. Today we are going to be doing our last big winter preparation for the garden.
And when I was at the trampoline park, I was playing dodgeball and I got hit right in the eyeball, right here, right both.
You ready to go outside? You want to go help me in the garden? Yeah. Today we are going to be doing our last winter preparation in the garden, which means we're harvesting seeds and cutting back all of the remaining plants. It's going to be in the 50s today with a wind chill of I think in the lower 40s, which is not bad, especially when you've been used to it being below freezing.
Some of our plants died, like this one and our blueberry.
Yeah, some of our plants did die.
Yeah, but these ones are still alive. We're so happy. But right here we have a few dead plants that were these, and this actually good.
Can you tell our friends why the plants died?
Because it was winter. And
Because it's winter.
Last time we're about to cook right here.
Mm-hmm.
We have to pick the piece.
Yep, our annuals died back. We've got some garbage that has floated into the yard as well as some dog bones here and there. But our rose bushes seem to be doing really good.
Yep.
I wasn't sure. I mean, these are perennials here in Zone 5, Eastern Iowa, as well as like the weiglas and stuff. But obviously not the moonflower. Not some of our other plants, but the rose bushes are looking really good. I'm excited to see them getting established. These are one of the first plants we planted here in the tea garden. If you're new here, we've been renovating this entire house. It's night and day difference already. And this space around our deck is going to be perennials. So echinaceas and roses and other perennials that will be used edibly in our tea. And so I will be harvesting like rose hips and petals and echinacea flowers, maybe the bulbs or the roots if they get large enough. And we will dry them and then we'll store them, preserve them, and use them all winter for tea. If you haven't picked up on it yet, I've spent the last week sick. Okay.
Silver string, go! Yeah!
Good job. Little peanut butter mouth. A few days ago, I woke up with my throat all swollen and a squeaky voice, which is not great when you're a musician. And I had singing commitments this weekend, so I've been reserving my voice as much as I can. However, I'm going to be gone this weekend, and so I need to get this garden taken care of because I think in like 4 days from now, it's going to be raining for like a week, which is not good. So I need to get my seeds that have been drying naturally on the plants out of the garden before it rains for a week and then freezes and rains and freezes and rains and freezes like it does here in Iowa. So a lot of the beans that I left on this bush, well, on these 10 different bushes, are mush. Very wet. I don't think they got time to like fully mature and dry before we had a really hard frost. And that's okay. I've got enough here. I'm only going to be planting probably 10 bushes again because that was plenty for our family. So the other plant that I was going to harvest seeds from were the okra. Now, I grew 2 different kinds of okra. I did the Clemson Spineless, which is absolutely my favorite because they're super easy to pickle because they're thin, as you can see. That's what these guys are. And they're long, and so they're great for pickling, which is what our family loves to do with them. And then we did the short squatty ones, which I can't remember what these were. They're not red burgundy. They were something else. I can't actually recall right now, but they were really squatty. I was not a fan of them because one, they were incredibly pokey, and then you had to harvest them when they were like really small or they got woody. And so for me, it just wasn't worth the volume of harvest that it, for the space that it took up. And let me tell y'all, it's gotten down to 21 degrees Fahrenheit, and this rocket arugula is still doing great. I am just baffled. I saw it got a little zapped. You can see it's struggling a little bit, but it's doing really great. So if you're looking for an arugula, a green specifically that is very frost tender, like this one got zapped. It was on the outside. Usually these branches on the outside of the plants are what get all zapped by the cool first. But it still has new growth coming in. That's looking great. And doing its thing. But yeah, rocket arugula. This is ROQUETTE arugula. I got this from Organo Republic. There are other seed providers that have it, so you can either follow the link in the description of this video below or just go ahead and give it a simple Google search and I'm sure you'll find it. You guys can see I had onions that didn't make it and leeks that didn't make it, but they're still trying. So I want to show you guys the difference when it comes to harvesting seeds to germinate, to sow the next year. You want to make sure that the plant has fully matured. Now this is the same variety, all 5 of these. This is all Clemson spineless okra. And if you had to guess which ones to save seed from, what would you be picking? Well, I hope you'd be picking the big ones, because the big ones mean that it's fully matured, and so the seeds are going to have a higher germination rate. You might be able to save seeds from these smaller ones and get a germination rate, or get a decent germination rate. However, you run the risk of not having anything. I am actually just going to keep these 3. I'm going to break these open and show you guys. There's quite a few seeds usually inside of okra. Well, this is quite the unfortunate situation. And what I wish I wasn't showing you guys. These seeds got wet. It got too cold out here, which I wondered if it did. But either way, you can still see that there are, I mean, gosh, there's probably 50 seeds just in this one okra fruit. However, yeah, you can see this seed is literally like mush. They should just be hard and round. I should have harvested these before we had all those really hard frosts, and I didn't. And so I knew the risk I was running. But seeds are cheap and easy to get a hold of. However, it is good. It is good to know the skill of seed saving. And so if you wanted to save seeds from okra, harvest these seed pods. When they're mature, when they're hard, they're woody, a lot of times you will actually see splitting happening on the outside skins right in between here. And that's, you know, they're ready to harvest. And the seeds typically are like black and round, not brown and squished. This is fine. I'm just going to throw them back in. I let all of my produce just fall in here as long as there's been no crazy disease, and just refertilize, compost the beds for next spring. We've got a wonky cattle panel here. Actually, this is a hog panel, but look at that. I knew when we put this up that the soil in these beds, you can see, like if you look all the way down there, let me show y'all. You can see that this soil used to be all the way up to the wood, and it has settled almost a foot, which is insane to me. And when that happened, the soil obviously was loose when we put these T-posts in, and so they weren't as strong. You can see they weren't as strong as I'd like for them to be. So Kayla will have some fun fixing my garden beds before I sow seeds in them next year. Also, here's an update on my spicy broccoli arugula. Or no, this is kale, spicy broccoli kale. If you're new here, we don't know what this variety is. I sowed a bunch of seeds last fall to kind of do an experiment to see what would actually germinate through the winter and make it through the winter here in Iowa. And this one did. However, I don't remember what I planted. I thought I marked them all. Hey, you, get out of here. I thought I marked them all and I did not. So this guy popped up, and I kid you not, it literally tastes like a spicy broccoli. That's the best way to describe it. So I saved seeds and I set them up here on top of these windows. And then the seeds obviously spread, and I found these starting to grow underneath our pumpkins, which were trailed all over this area. All right, it's time to get to work. I need to cut down the loofah, kind of chop and drop that. I might throw quite a bit of that into our compost bin. I got a lot of garden work, guys. I want to get it done, and I'm going to show y'all what we are doing to prepare our beds for winter.
See, so Mom, you sit right there and then you take your shoes off. And this is where you get the third one. Here, come. Take your shoes off.
You're gonna have to clean them up. Put the loofah down. You can see those T-posts were also loosening. Caleb thought we'd give these ones a try because they're financially just cheaper than a regular T-post. But they're squattier. They definitely don't hold as much weight. But originally we had 2 here that you see here, and they're also screwed into the wood up there. And then we also had 2 more on this side of the bed in the exact same space, or the exact same spot right here. However, this cattle panel was 16 foot, 14 foot by the time we cut it. And so that was a lot of pressure just wanting to go that direction. And we had the beds 3 feet apart. So they did not like that. And so these cheap little T-posts, I don't remember what they're called, U-posts or something. They started to buckle out. And so they were pulling away from the wood, obviously. And they did not last long. However, I already had plants growing over here by the time that I went and bought T-posts, which is why you see 2 extras right there, because those will actually go in the middle of this bed. We will reassemble the ones in this bed. We'll add more soil next spring and let that compress. And hopefully, going into year 3, hopefully it will be sufficient. You look so dirty. You got dirt on your face. That's just about full, huh? So this bed had black garbanzo beans and then provider bush beans. I am not going to be ripping these out. I will be cutting them off at the surface, which I do for the majority of my plants, but especially for beans, because beans have little nodules in their root systems that take up nitrogen, and it'll disperse nitrogen again into the next gardening season soil. And so you don't want to go ripping up your beans. And they actually do the same thing here in Iowa when they rotate soybeans and corn in the fields. They actually cut at the root, at the surface there. They cut and leave the roots in the soil for a natural fertilizer. If I had bigger clippers, this would be easier. Don't look at this loofah. It froze, obviously, and now it's turning to mush. But yes, I am also going to just let it compost in the beds. I wish I had chickens for that very reason. They would enjoy that. The basil stalks are like small bushes at this point. They're insane. I should just pull those out, but I'm just gonna leave it. Now I'm just gonna be chopping and dropping these beans because I'm gonna use this foliage just as a soil cover for the winter. You should never leave your soil uncovered. Never. If you leave it uncovered, she will cover herself because she's a modest lady. So chop and drop. You could also use leaves. If you live somewhere where you can actually grow anything over the winter, unlike here in Iowa, you could do a ground coverage, whether it's clover or a wheat or, something of that sort that you can chop and drop. Comfrey, I know if you have fruit bushes and stuff, you can do comfrey. Chop and drop. There's a lot of benefits to letting plants return to the earth, letting them return just like they would in nature. There's a reason that the cycle is effective and successful. Now again, if you have plants that were diseased, don't do that. Just burn those or get rid of them however you may. The other thing about leaving plants, like a chop and drop style of leaving plants in your garden over the winter, is it does actually provide a home for a lot of an ecosystem that we don't see. Worms, bugs, critters, cocoons. There's all sorts of stuff that's actually living in your plants. And if you were somebody just to rip out your plants and throw them in the compost bin or the recycling bin and discard them otherwise, and then you leave your soil bare and empty, 1, you're going to be hurting your soil, but 2, you're also hurting an entire ecosystem that is developed in your garden that is beneficial. So you might be wondering, well, what are you going to do in the spring? Because you can't plant into something like this. I've got 2 different options. I will either remove this and add compost or some sort of soil on top of this as a fresh fertilizer to this soil, kind of rejuvenating it. Or if these beds, which for the last 2 years they still have been compacting with the soil because these are brand new beds that we filled, If they still are compacting, they're going to compact at least a few more inches, which means I can put soil on top of all of this, what will be brown matter. Right now it's kind of brown and green. There's still some dead and some living parts, but I can allow it to naturally compost beneath the surface. My mom had extra soil from her garden this year. She said, "Do you want that soil?" I said, "Yeah." And so I'm just dumping the extra soil into the tomato bed, which is probably a foot recessed. 1 or 2 scoops less that I'll have to do next year. And looky there. Thanks, Mom. Free hand trowel. Okay, so I've got everything cut down other than my okra, and I see now that I just missed my dill, but everything is cut. The soil is, for the most part, covered. I will get some leaves back here probably next week. I gotta run my son to preschool at this point. The best thing I can do right now for myself, my future self, my gardener of 2026 self, is prepare these beds the best that I can, because I know that when the time comes, it's gonna come fast. And so if I can do my part now and clean up the garden, prepare the soil, do what I can to make life a little easier, I'm gonna do it. So I hope this leaves you encouraged as well. Again, we are gardening in zone 5 here in eastern Iowa, and so we won't be planting or harvesting anything really for another 6 months at the earliest. But until then, I'll catch y'all in the next video. See ya.